Hello, beautiful viewers. I'm David Reddish. As you probably know by now, Greg Bovino was fired by the Trump administration due to his handling of the situation in Minneapolis with their ongoing ICE capades. Call it American fascism on ice. This is a good thing, and I, for one, am happy to see him go. However, I had prepped this report just before the news broke, and it's still relevant to what's going on both in Minneapolis and with the Trump administration at large. So have a look at this. Greg Bovino, as it turns out, is indicative of a much larger problem and a much bigger scheme that Donald Trump is trying to pull off. Take a look. Commander-at-Large and fascist propaganda mouthpiece Greg Bovino has been exposed as part of a nefarious and secret plan to overhaul the United States and turn it into a police state through highly subtle means. If Bovino's Nazi lesbian fetish night look drives you crazy, or you're just offended by his constant lies, stay tuned. You are about to feel very vindicated. This is The David Reddish Show. Welcome to the show, Occupy Democrats viewers. I'm David Reddish. I'm going to jump in on this story momentarily, but first, please do me a favor and subscribe to my channel by following the link in the description right now. We're coming up on 1 month of the new show, and we need to hit 200,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So help a Democrat out. Okay, let's get to it. Greg Bovino has risen out of obscurity in the past few weeks as a commander-at-large for Border Patrol in the city of Minneapolis. It's something of an ironic title given his diminutive height, but that's another story. In the wake of the killings of Renee Good and Alex Pretty, Bovino has become one of the most vocal sources of misinformation coming out of the Trump administration, with statements like these.
During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
For the record, there is no evidence that Alex Pretty was planning a massacre at an ICE protest, nor did he assault ICE officers with his gun, nor did he have it drawn. Multiple angles of the incident have since surfaced online proving he did not have his gun, which he carried with a permit. Pretty did not have his gun drawn, and in fact, agents had disarmed him before they killed him. Nevertheless, late yesterday, Greg Bovino continued to play the victim.
Calling law enforcement names like Gestapo or using the term kidnapping. That is a choice that is made. There are actions and consequences that come from those choices.
And if you think that's ridiculous, stay tuned. It does get worse. And now we're back to that whiny Republican talking point about the hateful rhetoric coming from the left. How dare we compare them to Nazis or the Gestapo? Well, here's an idea. Stop acting like Nazis. Stop adopting their tactics. Stop embracing their values. And stop dressing like them. Okay, here's a David Reddish show first. We're going to do a little fashion show. First up, here. On the left is Greg Bovino last week. On the right is Adolf Hitler at the Nuremberg rally. Notice any parallels there? Does it seem like Bovino is channeling Adolf? And if that's not enough, check out this fashion ensemble. That's Bovino in a heavy winter coat last week, and on the right is Adolf again, in the same style coat. Now I ask you, beautiful viewers, do you see parallels there? Anything reminiscent? Well, if it seems like Bovino is trying to make very clear a fashion statement, one possibly phrased in German, there's a good reason. Check this out. Over the weekend, Politico journalist Derek Guy released this article detailing Bovino's choice of fashion and what inspired it in the first place. And yes, it is Nazi militarism, or more generally, fascism. But there's an even more nefarious twist here. Apart from sending a dog whistle to anti-Semites, racists, and paramilitary groups like the Proud Boys with his choice of clothing, Bovino is doing something else. Guy details how Bovino is trying to subtly brainwash the American people into living in a more militarized society. Keep in mind that Bovino is not a military officer. He's a member of the Border Patrol, but he's dressing in transparently fascist, transparently military garb to signal that the United States is becoming a society governed by the military. In essence, a police state governed by martial law. In the same article, Derek Guy goes on to detail studies that have shown if, for example, a doctor wears more stereotypical doctor clothes, like a white coat, for example, people show him more respect because he looks the part. They take him seriously. The same thing is true of someone in a police uniform or a business suit. Looking the part, in essence, triggers a specific reaction from people. In the case of Bovino, his militaristic uniform look is to strike fear into the hearts of Americans and suggest that ICE is performing military operations, that this is a war. That's a lie, for the record. ICE is not a military agency, nor are they traditional law enforcement, nor do they have training for either profession. This is, as I have said on this show in the past, all part of an elaborate scheme to make Minneapolis a staging ground for what will amount to a nationwide militarization of cities in the United States, especially those controlled by Democrats. And we've also seen that the pressure on local officials is to force them to turn over voter rolls to the administration, ceding control and monitoring of elections to the Trump administration. So does this look like fascism to you, my beautiful viewers? If all the insanity we've witnessed in Minneapolis over the past month isn't enough, Greg Bovino's fashion sense should seal the deal, which makes this the perfect time to continue to protest ICE activities everywhere and contact your representatives and tell them to defund ICE activities and let real law enforcement investigate and arrest criminals. Tell Bovino, Trump, and their thuggish, fascist wannabes that we do not tolerate fascism in this country. We will not let that happen here. And while you're at it, maybe send Greg Bovino a few fashion suggestions. For one thing, I could see him dressed as a resident of Munchkinland, couldn't you? And somehow the man still isn't even qualified enough to be a member of the Lollipop Guild. Think about that one. I'm David Reddish.